In any given discipline, what does it mean to be the greatest of all time? Is it about being the best in your era? Or maybe the amount of records you've set throughout history? Or how dominant you were over a given stretch of time? Or even the legacy you leave behind? Sometimes it can be debatable, and in rare cases it can even be unanimous. But then there's Luigimaster, the greatest 3D World Speedrunner of all time, holding every single record on both the Wii U and Nintendo Switch versions of the game, and even holding all 96 records on Super Mario 3D Land, as well as holding records in multiple full game speedrun categories, including any % on both versions of the game, despite them having completely different movement mechanics, and completely different speedrunners to compete with. By 2023, Luigimaster had dominated all aspects of the game, and was set his sights in conquering a niche subset of the community, dedicated to completing levels without items, touchscreen, or any glitches. Could we finally prevent the inevitable, or were we destined to fall like all those who'd come before us? Before we delve into today's story, it is important to set the scene. After playing the game casually back in 2017, I would decide to finally start speedrunning it towards the end of 2019, and would begin to start setting times in some of the easier levels in the game. Back then, I was unaware of all the tricks used by the top runners, instead opting to learn the game as I went along. This meant that a lot of my early runs featured fairly primitive movements and were very unoptimized, since I'd mostly only use a combination of rolling long jumps and running, which were among some of the slower movement options in the game. Nonetheless, within my first few months of the game, I would continuously improve my times and would have a breakthrough on New Year's Day 2020, where I'd achieve my best run to date and would begin to push the limits of what could be achieved using only rolling long jumps. It was also around this time where I would discover some of the top runs in the game, and I was simply blown away by how much faster they were than my own. As contrary to my initial belief, I would discover that the catsuit would allow you to go much faster speeds than you could without it, as a technique called cat momentum combined with Peach's ability to float in midair would allow top runners to perform a variety of skips on a number of levels. Whilst I was utterly blown away by the standard of these world record runs, I simply found it too daunting that I was a whole 20 seconds behind the world record. I also found it tedious that after most attempts you would be forced to obtain a new catsuit. Therefore, throughout the early months of 2020, I decided I would continue to lower my times page without using any items. And as my gameplay would continue to improve, I would begin to see the times falling lower and lower, which would culminate in me finishing my first level in under 40 seconds towards the end of February. But slowly I was beginning to lack motivation, because I simply had no one to compete with. Initially I had been comparing all of my runs to a player called Gatordrag, who like myself had opted to do levels itemless back when the game was initially released at the end of 2013. But within a few months I'd already tied or beaten most of his best runs, and it was clear I was going to need to look elsewhere to find competition. So I began to reach out to some of the top active players, daring them to beat some of my best times, and in March 2020, one runner would accept the challenge, and proceed to absolutely destroy my 3 best runs at the time, by using a different character and a newly discovered glitch, which involved repeatedly crouching before each jump in order to multiply speed. Armed with this new knowledge, I would set about trying to win my times back, and would eventually be able to reclaim all 3, but felt the game now lacked the charm it once had. With my times now reclaimed, I now had a decision to make, on whether to continue using crouch jumps in all my runs, and to me, the choice was clear. Despite not using crouch jumps, by June I was setting my best records to date, knocking 4 seconds off my PB to get 3-360, and finding 2 seconds of time save on a PB I thought was previously impossible to beat. Whilst at this point I was exclusively doing runs without items and without glitches, I still sometimes opted to use different characters like Rosalina to perform bigger skips on some levels, but that would soon change as eventually I'd switch to only using Toad for speedruns, as well as opting to not use the touchscreen, and with that, the rule set of the category was finalised. The first true battle of the category would take place on the level 9-5, where over the course of just 1 week, 7 different runners would help push the record all the way from 48 seconds down to 44 seconds, which 3 of us would tie by the end of the week. The first runner to get 44 was none other than Yandema, a runner who just recently dethroned the any percent world record, which had previously stood for 3 whole years. Despite being used to just cap peach movement, Yandema would quickly adapt to the category and would beat out both Luigimaster and myself in the race to 44. Not to be outdone, Luigimaster, with the help of his brother using the touchscreen to break the blocks, would go 1 second faster and clock the first 43 on the stage. But now it was my turn to defend my category. And 1 month later, I would do just that, with 9-5 42, which would have the cleanest movement on the level to date, and was so fast that I didn't even need touchscreen to go 1 second faster and set an untied record. But unfortunately, the hype around the category would slowly die down, as most of the newly formed itemless community would turn their attention to the full game category, where we'd knock 15 whole minutes off the existing world record, ending with this run.
Yes! Yes! Oh my god, it's a 1:59.50! Yes! Come on, just finish it up, finish it up! Oh, we've cased it! It wasn't even close!
And with that, the Wii U era would come to a close, as the very next day, the game would get re-released on the Nintendo Switch, and every player would flock to this new version, all except me. Within a few months of the new game's release, I was already back to doing what I did best, beating all of my old records and finding new ways to push my category to heights never thought possible, discovering a massive skip on the level 4-4 to save over 20 seconds. But yet again, I was in dire need of a rival, and soon enough, one would come. Spongy had proven himself to be one of the fastest new generation of itemless runners on the Nintendo Switch, and soon he would expand his sights to the Wii U version of the game, where he was very quickly able to tie some of my best times on the earlier levels. But it wouldn't be until he approached the level 1-5 in which he was able to achieve his first untied record in the category. But unfortunately for Spongy, his first untied record would not last long, as the real battle was about to begin. With another victory against Luigimaster under my belt, I would turn my attention to the hardest level in the game, a level that required almost 3 minutes of precise gameplay, and was already considered one of Nintendo's hardest ever levels. But of course that would not stop me from trying to beat the level without items in the fastest time possible. And with the help of a skip discovered by fellow runner Rapid, which would cut out the entire water section, as well as a practice ROM developed by my friend Theo, I was able to complete Champions Road faster than 2 previous any percent world record holders had using items. But I was still in need of a new clear best run, and that would come in October 2021, when I was able to knock off a further 2 seconds what was arguably still my best run at the time, through a combination of cleaner overall gameplay and angling my jumps in order to build speed. The result was 3-357, a run that would remain my best run through to the end of the year, by which point Spongy was starting to time beat some of my times on the earlier levels. But entering 2022, it was Luigimaster who yet again returned with a bang, getting 6-6-46, a time that would beat my newly acquired second best run, and a time that I'll be unable to match for the rest of the year. A year where, despite seeing some new faces to the category, would prove quite uneventful, with both Spongy and Luigimaster being relatively inactive for most of the year. But all that was about to change entering 2023, the year our story truly begins. The end of 2022 would see two new runners join the battle. Two runners that would go on to help revolutionise the category, and who will play an integral role in our story today. The first of these two runners was King Galumba, who would make his entrance with a new untied record on 3-1, followed by multiple tied records over the next few months, as well as a new top 5 untied record on the first level of the game. The second runner was Radgamer, who, like Galumba, would make his debut with a new untied record on 1-2, and would follow that up with multiple new untied records in the coming months, including 5-4 74 and 3-1 34. He would also set his sights on some of the more challenging levels, including getting 1 second away from the record on 9-5, a top 4 record at the time, and showing that he was already almost able to match some of my best times. Our final main character needs no further introduction, and this time he was here to stay for good, as none other than Luigimaster would announce his return with a new top 1, which would come after a week-long battle with myself, in which we traded down the record from 88 to 84 seconds. The resulting run was far better than any run that had come before, and just like with 6-6 46 a year previously, I had no response for this run, and it would remain untied for the rest of the year. But this time was different, and Luigimaster was just getting started, as he would get 1-5 77, avenging his loss on the stage from 2 years ago, and setting a new benchmark that would be unchallenged for the months to come. But whilst Luigimaster was beginning to beat me on some of my weakest stages, he'd still not dethroned any of my strongest records. But all of that was about to change, as after a week-long battle, Luigimaster would beat me to the first 39 on 9-5, a time that I would tie myself just 2 days after, but the damage was done, and my favourite record had been taken away from me. 9-5 39 would go on to be the new top 1 run in the category, but little did we know that this would be the last time that someone other than Luigimaster would hold the top 1 for well over a year. But Luigimaster's tear through the category would not stop there, as into February he would cut a further 2 seconds off the record on 5-5, despite the record only just having been beaten a few days previously by King Galumba. With one of his untieds defeated, Galumba would respond with 2-1 37, but this time too would also prove not immune from Luigimaster, who would set 2-1 36 a few days later. Within the span of only 3 months, Luigimaster had gone from holding only 5 untied records to holding 17, and he already held 8 out of the top 10 records. It was clear the category now had a new master. But behind the scenes, Radgamer had been working on a new potential top 1. And after months of preparation, at the end of March, he would finally achieve this run. A run that would break the 3-way deadlock on 1-2 and get the first 48 on the stage. But none of us were ready for Luigimaster's response. And with that run, Luigimaster was incredibly able to knock 2 further seconds off 1-2 and get a new best run in the category. Throughout all these battles, I'd slowly been grinding in the background, but whilst I'd made improvements on a number of my PBs, none had been comparable to the heights I'd achieved with 9-5 39 and slowly I was getting left behind. And with the sudden loss of my beloved auntie, as well as my final exams soon approaching, I had started to take a step back from the game. But not before I was able to complete a project I'd been silently working on behind the scenes, which involved me cutting 10 seconds off the level 6-1, a run that I would dedicate in my auntie's honour, and follow up with an equally impressive run on the level 5-6, where I would eke out every single micro optimization to push the category one step closer to having the first level be completed in under 30 seconds. And before long, we would go one step further, as Galumba would once again return to the stage and attempt to pull off a skip that had long been theorized. By choosing to go to the right of the checkpoint and then slide down one of the slopes, Galumba was able to build enough speed to bridge the gap to the right platforms, allowing him to completely bypass the left side of the map, allowing him to complete 5-630 in the process. He then followed that up with another top 10 untied record in the level 3-1, where like 5-6 and 1-2 earlier in the year, he was able to use a combination of ledges and slopes to build speed throughout the map, with the result being 3-132, his third improvement to the level within the year. Lumba would then attack his next favourite level, 8-4, a level where he had already held the untied earlier in the year at a mark of 40 seconds. Despite no one tying it since, he'd set out to improve the time down to 39 seconds, which meant that by the end of May, Galumba would be up to 6 untied records, with Radgamer following closely behind with 5 untied records of his own. Since rejoining the category, only one level had proved difficult for Luigimaster to tie, 1-3-35, a time that I had set at the end of 2021 that we thought was impossible to beat. But throughout May, I began to start attempts on a run that could finally dethrone 1-2 as the new top 1. And after 3,500 attempts and over 100 droops of 1-3-35, I would achieve what would be my best time to date and break a 4-way tie on the level. As I knew that in order to beat Luigimaster, I had to do the impossible, 1-3-34, a run that was so strong that it would put me in the top 5 players who had ever played the level, all whilst using the limitations of the category, meaning no catsuits to climb trees, no crouch jumps to build speed, and no touchscreen to kill the piranha plant at the end. The climb section was so fast that it was even faster than the world record of the catsuit. And with that, I had achieved the impossible. With my exams now over, I would set out to make a statement, cutting 20 whole seconds off the level 10-3, by managing to catch a cycle previously only thought possible with items or Rosalina. But to my disappointment, 1-3-34 would be tied by 3 runners, denying it as a top 1, and 10-3 would be beaten by Radgamer. Unperturbed throughout June, I would continue to set a number of personal bests, including 6-2-39, which involved me skipping 2 whole seconds without tying my PB of 41 a single time. My next grind would take me to the level 8-1, a level in which I had to tilt the camera in order to line up certain cycles, so that I wouldn't have to wait at certain points in the stage. I'd initially underestimated the difficulty in obtaining this time, but after 11 hours I was able to get it. At this point I was beginning to get bored of beating my own record, and would set about trying to beat one of Luigimaster's time that Luigimaster would try to rank above 1-3-34, despite it being set 2 whole years ago. Enraged, I would make history and become the first person to beat a Luigimaster time by 2 whole seconds. But in doing so, I'd awoken a monster, as Luigimaster would spend the next few months going on an absolute tear of the category. A tear he would start off by immediately reclaiming 5-7, in a run that we would later realise was way ahead of its time. He'd follow it up with a 2-second untied on 6-6, before he would set his sights on my strongest level, where amazingly he was able to untie my record with 3-3-55. And to add insult to injury, he would go on to beat my time on the sister level 11-6, meaning that within a span of just 1 week, I'd lost 2 of my best 3 times. Heading into July, we had a chance for redemption, as all 4 of us were going for 2-3-32. But yet again, Luigimaster would beat us to it in dominant fashion, needing only 2 hours to obtain the run. whereas the rest of us took well over 20 hours until we finally got the times ourselves. It was becoming scarily apparent that whilst we were still able to match his times, it would regularly take us 10 times as many attempts before we were also able to pull through. However, despite the odds, the three of us were beginning to fight back, as I was able to tie both 3-3 and 11-6, with both Radgamer and Galoomba doing one better and tying the still top 1 46, which would prompt it to fall to top 5 by the end of the month. A clear sign that the category was continuing to progress, and leaving room for a new run to take its place as the new best time in the category. For the remainder of July, Galoomba would aim to do just that, returning to 2 of his prominent levels where he'd already held record, getting 3-3 31, which would place top 6, followed by 5-6 29, which would place slightly higher at top 4. And with other levels like 1-3 and 9-5 under his belt, Galoomba was beginning to amass multiple records within the top 10. All he needed now was a new top 1 to start seriously rivaling Luigimaster. But Luigimaster would have other ideas, and with his first serious grind in the category, he would get 1-1 37, a new clear top 1, which he was able to achieve after 9 hours of attempts over the course of 3 days, more than double the length of his next longest grinds to this point. But even after his biggest grind yet, Luigimaster would only just get the time, with only 1 frame to spare, a fact that would only go on to strengthen its position as the new clear top 1 in the category. And with Luigimaster almost sweeping the entirety of the top 10, his dominance had become more certain than ever, which raised the question, could anyone stop him? It wouldn't take long before attempts to dethrone 1-1 as the new top 1 level would begin, as Galoomba would incredibly head over to 7-7 and knock 4 seconds off of one of Luigimaster's best times, through a combination of extra ledge boosts and preserving more speed over the clear pipe. Due to the complexity of the level, the run would be placed as top 2, until Luigimaster would proceed to absolutely demolish it with 7-7 41, knocking a further 2 seconds off the time, and a time that he would only rate as his second best run, behind 1-1. Next up was my turn, as I'd returned to Champions Road for the first time in 2 years, after finding a way to preserve speed and skip a cycle in the second section, which would save 3 whole seconds in that part alone. But even armed with the new skip, a PB would not come easy, as it would force me to navigate all 8 tricky sections of Champions Road, including the tricky lasers and the notorious thank you skip. But luckily, armed with those 3 seconds of time save and general better movement throughout the level, I was able to knock 4 seconds off my PB and obtain my new best run, and give me the momentum I needed into the latter half of the year, as I begin to notch more untie records within the top 20 runs in the game. Starting with 7-1 48, which would break a 3-way tie between myself, Radgamer and Galoomba on the stage, and placed in a similar position to 1-3, despite only taking me half the amount of time to achieve. Into October, my gameplay would continue to improve, as I'd take only 5 hours to get a new untied record on 2-5, beating one of Luigimaster's times in the process. For the first time since 2021, it finally felt like I could compete with Luigimaster on an even playing field, a point I'd prove when I'd settled the score once and for all on the level 1-5, going 1 second faster and setting a new untied record in the process. A record that will go on to remain unmatched for almost a year and remain unbeaten to this day, but would still fall just short of the top 10. Not to be forgotten, Radgamer would also conjure up an untied record of his own, achieving 7-4 54, beating one of my most recent top records in the process. But this record too would share a similar fate and fall just outside the top 10, which meant that yet again it was down to Galoomba to dethrone 1-1 as the top 1. And in October 2023, he would have 2 attempts to do so, as he would yet again lower his own unties on 2 of his most infamous stages. But once more, Luigimaster wasn't having any of it, and would set about beating both records to deny them their positions as the new top 1s, getting 8-4 36, followed by 5-6 27. Placing both below his 1-1 37, allowing it to rack up its 5th straight month as the top run in the category, and prompting us to rate Galoomba's next untied on his 3rd iconic level, only top 8. A point that would be proven when Luigimaster was easily able to dupe 3-130 himself. and confirmed that this run too was no match for his 1-137 that he set back in June. All of this meant that every attempt to dethrone 1-1 as the top 1 had been squashed by Luigimaster, and he continued to prop up this run by obtaining and placing even crazier runs below it, as in November he had achieved 6-749, a time only 1 second away from the overall world record on the level, by expertly navigating the blind off-screen sections, and flawlessly hitting each camera trigger to advance the auto-scroll sections of the level, achieving a time that to this day is 7 seconds clear of second place on the level. And so, by the end of October, the top 5 runs in the game were all held untied by Luigimaster. At this point, it seemed clear to me that there was only one way to dethrone 1-1 as the top level in the game. And throughout October, I would begin to put my plan into motion, as I would slowly build my skill. Firstly tying 1-246 before getting another untied in 6-1. Next up, I would have my luckiest grind to date, as I would knock 3 whole seconds off my PB on 4-4 over the span of just 3 hours, which meant I finally felt ready to execute my plan and end 1-1's reign as top 1 once and for all. As just 1 week later I would tie 1-137 and prove it was no longer the strongest run in the game, and by the end of November 1-1 would drop to top 5 after Galumba was also able to tie the time. Now that I had successfully dethroned the top 1, I set my sights on a new goal. A goal that would see me return to 11-6 to try to set the new best run in the category. And after a record 61 hours of attempts and over 200 duplications of 11-6 45, I would finally get 44, albeit with a slightly scuffed run with a lucky ending, which meant by the end of the year it would fall just short of top 1, but was still enough to cement my name firmly back on the map as we entered 2024. Galumba would end the year strong with his best record to date, by untying the legendary 1-246 with a historic 45-second run on the stage. Whilst it would fall 1 place shy of the top 1, Galumba would use this newfound momentum to get multiple runs throughout January, including a 2-second cut on the level 6-2. Throughout February and March, Galumba would complete his 1-year-long battle with Luigimaster on 2-1, in which they collectively had dropped the record from 39 to 31 seconds, trading times back and forth, but it was Galumba who would get the final blow with the first 31 on the stage. But all this time, Galumba had never set a top 1 run, and was in need of a statement. Initially, when Galumba had obtained his 1-245, it was projected to be the top 1 run in the game. However, over the course of his grind, he discovered that 44 was possible, and would go out and try to achieve it. However, yet again, it would be Luigimaster who would strike first, as he would quickly tie the 45 before lowering the time even further with a new best run in the category, in what would be his 5th consecutive top 1 in a row, and making it so that it had been over a year since anyone had held a share of the top 1 themselves. He would also tie Galumba's mark of 31 on 2-1, meaning that once again he held all top 5 records in the game. But this was just the beginning, as March 2024 would go down as the most dominant month in the category's history, as Luigimaster was intent in sweeping every single level in the game. In the span of just 1 week, Luigimaster would rack up 4 more top 10 runs, including the new 2nd best run in the game, 9-538, after winning another race with Galumba and myself. And whilst we both tied the 38, we would have no response to the other times, and no response for what was about to happen next.
If I can't have you, then no one can.
Luigimaster had yet again set a clear top 1 in the category, with the only resistance in March being in the form of a new untied record on 6-6, as with the help of a faster strat at the start, I was able to reclaim the level that Luigimaster had initially stolen from me 2 years ago, and in the process beat one of his top 10 runs. But the run would barely place top 10 as Luigimaster was quickly able to tie it, which meant that by the end of March, Luigimaster was on the verge of having the most untied records in the game. A title that I was not willing to give up without a fight, as I set about trying to beat some of Luigimaster's times, finding a faster ending on 8-5 to cut a second, before moving on to 2-4, where after over 80 strong paces I'd finally string together the perfect run and untie the level with 34, in a run that would involve 5 separate slope boosts in order to conserve as much speed as possible. However, unfortunately, Luigimaster was able to fluke a tie after grinding for just 1 hour, and the time would place only top 8. By performing the skip earlier in 7-5 and having an overall better second tower, I was able to cut 3 seconds off my record, making sure to tilt the camera where possible so I could line up the cycles and make sure I didn't take damage on the way down. But this record too would be short-lived, as just 1 week later, Luigimaster would take just 2 hours to tie the time, and would then decide to push the level 1 step further, strategically killing the enemies in the second tower so they wouldn't get on his way on the way down. And after just 2 more hours of attempts, he would achieve 7-5 64. Entering May, it was Galumba's turn to strike back, and he would do so with a new top 3, 3-6 63, improving on a mark that had taken Luigimaster quite a long time to tie. And sure enough, this record would prove the toughest for Luigimaster to tie yet, as he would take over 6 hours in order to tie the 63 himself, meaning that for the first time Luigimaster had taken longer than us in order to get a record, but still showed he was capable of matching any record that we threw at him. It was clear that we would need a backup plan for when the Luigimaster inevitably came close to sweeping the category. So Galumba decided to return to one of the levels that Luigimaster thought was impossible to beat, and would secretly set a new untied record, choosing to hide it from Luigimaster to prevent him from getting every single record in the game. All the while, Luigimaster was continuing to expand his times page, exploring new levels such as 8-6, where due to the level's complexity and skips, he would take a record 10 hours to tie my time, and would then spend the next 6 hours decimating the time and knocking 5 seconds off the record, expertly navigating every skip, to set a new benchmark on the stage that will place within the top 5 runs in the game and remain unmatched to this day. Within the same week, Luigimaster was also able to beat one of my untied records on 8-1, with the help of an edge boost on one of the spikes, as well as better overall movement throughout the level. And whilst Galumba and myself would eventually tie this time, Luigimaster had already gone on to set multiple new untied records, and by the end of June now held a clear lead in the number of untieds in the category, and was only 17 records away from holding every single record in the game. One of these 17 was Spongy's final record, set 3 years ago, a time Luigimaster would go on to demolish by 40 whole seconds, by far the largest margin we've ever seen in the category, despite most of the level being full of autoscroll sections. At the beginning he would tilt the camera so he could board the Ferris wheel 2 seconds earlier, and by the time he got to the boss fight was already 4 seconds ahead, but the real magic was yet to come, as in the second phase of the boss fight, Luigimaster would pull off a massive skip, previously only thought possible with the catsuit, which involved him playing off screen like in 6-7 for a long period of time, but this time far more difficult, but in the process saving 20 seconds over the conventional route. But the time save would not end there, as Luigimaster would continue to play off screen as he made his way up the final tower, on a pace previously thought inconceivable, as his gap to Spongy's old world record was now so large that we'd have no idea how to quantify this run, other than Luigimaster's opinion that it was a new top 4. But somehow, Luigimaster's next record would be even crazier, as he would cut 4 seconds off the world record in 7-4, after finding 5 new edge boosts at the beginning of the level, allowing him to achieve some of the fastest speeds ever seen in the category, and would set a new gold standard that to this day remains in the top 10 runs ever performed in the category. But fortunately for us, after playing this category consistently for over a year, Luigimaster was about to take a 3-month break. Entering July, Luigimaster was just 15 records away from sweeping yet another category. But whilst he was on a short break, Galumba and I would use the opportunity to start setting some more untides of our own, as well as fortify some of the levels that Luigimaster had not yet attempted, like 4-2, where Galumba would improve the record by 1 second, before setting his sights on his 5th consecutive untied record on the level 3-1, as he would somehow discover 2 more ledge boosts to increase the total up to 7, the most on any level in the category, even risking a boost on the final stairs to secure his best run yet, which inspired me to get a new best run of my own as I would return to Champions Row, where I was able to quickly relearn the level and cut my PB down by a second within the first 3 hours of the grind. But that wouldn't stop me continuing to strive for lower. After countless 380 boxes and lowering my PB again, I was finally on a run which could seal the grind for good. With nothing to lose, I'll completely go for it on the thank you skip, saving 2 whole seconds in that section alone. The practice had paid off, and I was able to get a 145 on the stage. August, I'll take full advantage of Luigimaster's absence and set 4 new untides in the process, on 8-3, 4-5, 4-3, and 5-5. 4 runs would rank within the top 30, that we would need something stronger to slow down Luigimaster for when he inevitably returns. My response, 3-3, 54. Reclaiming my best level and setting a run that would rank in my personal top 3 and in the overall top 13. End of the month, I would yet again set an untied record on 8-5, one that would yet again place within the top 15 and give me a record 7 active untides over Luigimaster, more than anyone had ever had before. But the simple question remained, would all this be enough for when Luigimaster inevitably made his return? Sure enough, after a 3-month break, Luigimaster would make his return to the category, with one of the most incredible runs in the game's history. A run that would cut 5 whole seconds off the record on 10-2, a level that was arguably the most trickiest and technical in the whole entire game, requiring you to perform precise jumps all whilst grabbing 5 key coins on your way up the hill. But that would only be the start, as the real magic began after collecting the final key coin. The runners got to perform the coolest skip in the category, with one single roll jump taking you from the last key coin all the way into the final box. And on pace, Luigimaster would get 10-2, 55. Luigimaster would systematically spend the next month dethroning all the runs that we had set during his hiatus, starting with 5-5 before moving on to tie 3-1 and 4-3, 51, eradicating most of the progress we had made in delaying his inevitable domination of the category. By the end of October, despite a 3-month break from the game, Luigimaster was only 17 records away from fully sweeping the category. It was clear that we could no longer stop this from happening, so our new mission was to delay it until the end of the year. But it was clear that I'll be unable to complete this mission alone, and luckily for me, during Luigimaster's break, Galumba had been preparing a new secret project with the potential to turn the tide in our favour with one single run. And with that, after more than a year and a half, someone else had finally set a top 1. A run that could stop Luigimaster from sweeping the category. Or so we thought. As yet again, Luigimaster would have other ideas, and after a just 6-hour grind, he was able to tie 1-133, where he would then controversially rate it below 5-7, placing it as only a top 2 run, and killing any last hopes we had of stopping his complete and utter takeover. For his legacy was now one step closer to immortality. Despite the insurmountable odds entering the last month of the year, I would continue to go for more untied records, including on the level 2-2, where for the first time we'd see the side flip used in a world record run, as well as better speed conservation throughout the second part of the level, which would be enough to temporarily displace Luigimaster's record of 41 until he inevitably ended up tying it the next day. And with November drawing to a close, the real war was about to begin, as we were just 1 month away from surviving until 2025. Luigimaster would kick off December with a new 2-second untied on 4-5, putting the rivalry on the stage to bed once and for all. He'd then follow this up with 8-5 82, tying one of my top 5 runs, before setting his sights on 8-3 50 to tie yet another one of my untied records, as well as crucially for the first time placing him less than 10 records away from sweeping the entire category. And with the rate he was now setting records, it seemed impossible to delay him until the end of the year, as in the month since his return he had already set 15 records.
15 minutes ago, I was laying in bed, and I had a crazy thought in my head. So I took the keys and got in the car. Don't know how I got here, but baby, here we are. Baby, here we are.
The hardest hit from Luigimaster's return had been King Galumba, who was now only down to 1 untied record, and he would set about trying to change that, going for 5-4 73 and getting a new untied after a 16-hour total grind, by opting to completely skip a cannon after the checkpoint, which we originally thought was faster, until Galumba was able to find 2 more edge boosts to complete the section faster than ever before, and set a time that would have tied the catsuit world record from 2019. Rather than tying the record immediately, Luigimaster would instead lower his own record in 7-3 to 43 seconds, yet again proving his dominance over the category, before taking only 1 hour to tie the 5-4 73, which at this point barely even came as a surprise to us, but meant Galumba was going to have to find another level in order to cause Luigimaster problems. And what better level than one he'd previously proven he was better than him on. And so the race for 3-6 62 would begin, with both runners keen to get there first. But unlike last time where Galumba was the first to get 63, it would be Luigimaster who would strike first, with a run that would perfectly skip the final slide, entering the box with all his speed still intact, allowing him to use that speed up the hill, which would be just enough to knock another second off what was still one of the top runs in the game, and send us a clear statement that unlike earlier in the year, he now had no weaknesses. And despite the fact Galumba was able to tie the time just a day later, the fact still remains: we were now truly battling a god.
You see seduction, thinking that you have control over me. When you discover I take no order, only see victims to battle and beat. No one could stop me.
With just over 2 weeks of 2024 remaining, I was working on my own solution to slow down Luigimaster's progress, and I would get within 3 frames of 6-1 56. But unfortunately, I was too late, as Luigimaster was able to go one better and get a 50 sticks of his own on the stage in just 4.5 hours, which was less time than the 6 hours he had taken to get 57 earlier in the year, and meant that once again I had lost another race to Luigimaster. But I knew I had no time to waste trying to tie the record, and I'd move on to trying to get some new unties to slow down the inevitable. All the while, Luigimaster was publishing a new record every day, including beating a 3-year-old record in 11-7 68, the last remaining record from 2021. The next day, Luigimaster would completely decimate 11-2, the sister level of 6-7, getting an 18-second cut on the level, by once again playing expertly off-screen. By Christmas Eve, Luigimaster was just 6 levels away from the sweep. But luckily I was able to find a new record on 10-6, a level which Luigimaster had only tied a week before, and a record that would require a lot of luck, the one thing capable of slowing Luigimaster down, as after 8 hours he was still unable to tie the record, instead opting to tie 2 of my hoarded times on 3-A and 3-3 before finally being able to break through with a 10-643 of his own, after a 9-hour grind. Luigimaster's second longest grind to date. We were now just 1 week away from 2025, and Luigimaster had just 3 records standing in his way. Luigimaster would quickly lower that count to 2, but just when all hope looked lost, the cavalry would arrive. In the nick of time, both Radgamer and Galuma were able to get 2 untied records each, pushing Luigimaster back to 6 records away from his goal, and giving us hope that we could delay the sweep until 2025. But Luigimaster would eventually tie all 4, and entering the final day he would have just 2 levels remaining. At this point we were all scrambling to some of Luigimaster's weakest levels, and Galuma was able to get 6-2 36, and then tried to continue to push for lower, chasing the 35, to stop Luigimaster once and for all. But after multiple days, the 35 still wasn't in sight, and for now we would have to hope that the 36 was enough to stop Luigimaster. But by now we knew that hope alone was not sufficient, and sure enough, Luigimaster would tie 6-2 36. He was now closer than ever to his goal of completely sweeping the category, with just 1 level standing in his way. Champions Road. The 31st of December 2024 would arguably be the most influential day in 3D World history, as all 4 runners were grinding their own projects, desperate to seal victory on the last day of the year. By this point, Luigimaster had poured over 10 hours into the Champions Road grind, yet had still not managed to tie the record. And I had poured over 30 hours into 10-6, in the hope of hitting the jackpot and achieving a run so lucky that not even Luigimaster would be able to tie it. After 2 whole years of mainly focusing on this category, Luigimaster was about to achieve his holy grail, and sweep the one corner of the game he had yet to master. Whereas I was on the verge of seeing my own creation crumble in front of my eyes. But just as all hope seemed lost, the stars would align. However, I would find out that I was too late, as just 2 hours before, Luigimaster had conquered Champions Road.
Resting on a knife, you heavy souls, with all its weight buckling down on you now. Don't you drown and float away, not a good time to lose control. Right as your marionettes cut their strings, run away, you're out of time, make your move, live or die while the fuse is lit, and there's no turning back.
After an 11-hour grind, Luigimaster had done it. He had achieved the full sweep of the category, cementing it with a new record on the hardest level in the category. The perfect end to a perfect story. A story that had spanned over 2 years and had led to Luigimaster holding all 104 levels in the category, with a whopping 42 of his times being unmatched by any other runner. But his journey to get there had been his toughest yet, as the three of us had battled relentlessly to delay the inevitable for as long as we physically could. And whilst we ultimately failed in our mission, we could stand proud, as we had kept him at bay for almost 2 years, and had all collectively built the category from its humble beginnings to a category we could honestly say was almost as optimized as any percent itself, with all the records taking sizable grinds to attain, and being among the best runs in the whole game, despite being a relatively new and niche subset of the community. Little did I realise when I first picked up the game at the end of 2019 that such a story was possible, yet here I was entering the 7th year of playing the game, still as passionate as ever. However, little could we all expect that just before New Year, something truly magical was about to happen, that would ultimately cement this day in 3D World history. And just when we thought the day couldn't get any crazier, it would somehow do just that. Amazingly, RadGamer would set 10-757 and make it the 4th top 20 times set in the day by the 4th different runner, becoming RadGamer's 5th Luigimaster bop and bringing our total to 65 total bops since 2021. But most importantly, it meant that entering 2025, Luigimaster no longer had the world record sweep. Despite our main storyline coming to an end, the category would continue on into 2025, with Luigimaster able to tie 10-6 and 6-2 before going on to set a new untied record on 11-11, in which he would introduce 2 new edge boosts which would put him almost a second ahead entering the second part of the level, in which he would maintain that lead and set the first 49 on the stage. However, after focusing on the category extensively for the last 2 years, Luigimaster would finally decide to take an extended break and would only return to the category one more time during the year, meaning that he would never reclaim the world record sweep he had held for those few hours at the end of 2024. And with Luigimaster out of the equation this year, it gave the rest of us a chance to well and truly shine. And sure enough, despite his absence, we would continue to push the categories to truly greater heights. In January, I would set a new untied record on the most technical level in the game, before finally tying 6-156 in February. I would then go and set my new best record in the game, 10-134, coupling it up with a very lucky and short grind on 9-2, before finally capping it off with 5-626 in July, my current best run. RadGamer would also return to tie the still top 1, as well as win an epic battle with Galumba on 9-3. But 2025 would truly be the year of Galumba, who would start by tying a number of records before going on an untied spree. By the midpoint of the year, Galumba had arguably surpassed Luigimaster, and it was clear the category had found its new god. Throughout May, Galumba would set his sights on dethroning 2 of the most notorious top 1s of all time. Firstly with 1-136 before getting 1-243, with both these runs placing in the top 10, meaning that he now held more top 10 runs than Luigimaster himself. But Galumba would not stop there, adding 5-5 and 6-5 to his untied collection, before going on an absolute incredible streak of records on 3-1, lowering the time all the way down to 26 seconds. But Galumba's biggest project has been cutting 7 seconds off the level 7-7 throughout the year, and he has now racked up over 100 hours going for 33, which would be a clear top 1. At the moment is only currently top 2, as Luigimaster will return with one final 30-hour grind to prove once and for all he was the greatest. Capping it off with 5-7-38, far and away the current best run in the category, and showing to us once and for all that despite all our advancements over the past year, we still trail the GOAT himself, and whenever he plans to return to the category, it is only a matter of time before he reclaims his throne. But for now, he can rest assured that the category is in good hands as we look towards the future, where times will continue to fall. As it stands, the category has been dormant for the last few months, with times more optimized than ever before, waiting for the next chapter in its history, waiting for the next champion to emerge. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who made it this far into the video, as well as all the runners that made this story possible, and made my time in the 3D World community over the last 6 years as enjoyable as it has been. I would highly recommend subscribing to these runners or watching their runs as they continue to go and set more and more impressive achievements. And I've linked their channels as well as the top 50 runs in the category in the description below. And if you've enjoyed the story today and are interested in participating in the next chapter of the category, feel free to reach out to me or join this 3D World Speedrunning Discord. Until then, have a great day and see you next time.